Hey guys, welcome to Sean's channel. Today I invite my friend Connor to share his experiences and opinions of being a literature student in the UK. He has done his undergraduate and postgraduate degree there, so we are going to talk about the degree program, the university environment, the student loans, and some other confusions of being a literature student. So here's the episode and enjoy watching. So how are you, Connor?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for coming to share your experiences and opinions of being a literature student in the UK. And because I'm thinking that UK is quite an ideal place for literature students, it is a
Yeah,
place for a lot of great authors like Shakespeare, Wordsworth, and Tolkien, J.K. Rowling. It's quite lucky
yeah.
to learn English literature there. So let's start with your university programs. What do you learn in university? Like what modules does your program cover?
So it's incredibly diverse. There's tends to be a module for basically anything that you might be interested in. In undergraduate, there's a lot more specific things which are compulsory, and that's to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page and knows the basics. But as you progress through undergraduate and especially into postgraduate study, you get the opportunity to really specialize and choose what you're interested in. And even if there's not a module which is specifically tailored to what you want to study, you get opportunities through your dissertations and through your essays in postgraduate to really look into something that you have a passion for, not just what the tutors want you to study.
What did you pick in your postgraduate?
Gosh, it was really diverse, my postgraduate. So I did everything from romanticism, the science behind romantic writing and poetry. I did romanticism on location, where we kind of went on trips and studied romanticism through that. But then I also did quite contemporary things. So my dissertation was on Deleuze and Guattari and Lord of the Rings, and I did a contemporary Gothic module where we looked at everything from modern films such as Twilight and the novel of Twilight and things like that. So it was really broad from kind of the classics to really contemporary text.
Yeah, that is true. That sounds so fun. And also, there's like a question I've been thinking because for us, I did my undergraduate degree in China. I studied
Yeah,
in Chinese literature, and foreign literature was quite a big portion in what we used to learn. So I was wondering, will you like learn some foreign literature for you? Like, do you learn Chinese literature or something like that?
it really depends on what you tend to look into and specialize on. I know that, like personally, I looked at quite European writers. So I looked into a lot of kind of classical English and Scottish writers, especially. But when it came to applying different kind of philosophy to those texts or to look at different critical theories, then you're looking at a really wide scope of like nationalities of writers, from Chinese to European, like Italian, French, to like Far Eastern, really, really diverse texts. And I know that they did modules looking at things like Arab writing and like contemporary female writing in foreign languages and kind of text in translation, which is a really interesting and new kind of topic that people are starting to look into. So there definitely is those options to look into kind of other philosophies and other texts in the English language.
Right. You are talking about the dissertation. So I was wondering,
Yeah.
what's the exam like? What's this assessment like for a literature student in university?
So there's kind of three main types of assessment. There's your kind of sat down timed exams, which they can vary in time, but they're normally around 3 hours, I believe. So you had those, then you had your kind of written coursework, which were kind of extended essays from in undergraduate anything from just 1,000 or 500 words to in postgraduate you had your 5,000 word essays, your 10,000 word 15,000 word dissertation. So they really give you a scope to look in something in detail with really looking at research that other people have done and quoting, and you can kind of spend as much time as you need on those within reason, obviously. And then the third option, you do a lot of presentations. So you'll look into a specific area of literature or into a specific novel or something like that, and do a presentation to the group and to your tutors, teaching them about it. So you've got that peer learning. One thing, especially with undergraduate studies, you also have the option that you can be a bit more flexible with some of your assessments. So I did a module which looked just at Shakespeare's plays and poetry. So for over 10 weeks, we just looked at Shakespeare. And for that, it was meant to be a 3-hour exam. But we got the option, and I took advantage of it, of doing a performance of one of Shakespeare's plays, and then doing an essay writing about your experience performing that and looking academically at your performance. So you've got a lot of flexibility with some modules to do what you're really interested in and what plays to your strengths.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So during like your university time, is there like any support that specifically you want to mention that the university and your department provided you to help you to get this degree?
Yeah, so personally, the kind of face-to-face communication and opportunities that you get with all the tutors is invaluable. And if you're going to study in the UK or, well, anywhere, I'd recommend you really take advantage of office hours and things like that. The opportunity to kind of sit down with people, whether it be academically, if you're struggling with something, or if you just want a bit more clarification. If you're feeling homesick, if you're feeling really nervous about what's going on, there's a lot of support there kind of personally to help you through that, which I know I took advantage of, and a lot of my friends did as well. So most universities offer, well, all universities offer things like that. And I think as well, when it comes to your studies, there's so much available in the library. And I know things like if you can't buy all the texts that you want, there's digital sources. There's at Lancaster University, there was an opportunity that you could message in and get the library to order books so that you don't have to pay for them and things like that. There's a lot of ways around things as well.
Yeah, that's true. Because when I was doing my master degree in Lancaster University, I was really impressed by how the library systems are. Like, it's quite development. I think if I cannot find this book in the library, I can just send that email to the library staff, and they will help me to find the book within few days. Especially like there's one time I requested a book and I received it, I think within 3 days. And when I opened the book, I found this book was actually from the British Library. So I kind of feel like they have a sharing system among different universities and research institutions. I think that's really great.
Yeah, they do as well. They have an option where you can sign up to this system and go to different libraries as well. So I'm from Manchester, which is about an hour away from where I went to university. I could sign up to this system and use the library at Manchester University as well as the one in Lancaster. So there is the option of, if you're moving somewhere else or if you're going somewhere, you can still access those sources at different places.
I'm also thinking, because you were mentioning like when you have some academic questions or even personal questions, you can always have someone to talk to. So what's the relationship like between the teaching staff and the students, like the professors?
Yeah, what I really loved and what surprised me was that it was really casual. It's really friendly, because a lot of the time you're not treated, when you go to university, as a student. By most of the staff, you're treated as a colleague. So especially when it comes to postgraduate study, you're not there to kind of sit there and be taught and for the tutor to ramble on at you. You're there to do your own research in what you find interesting, and they're just there to kind of guide it. So what's great is that you build up this quite friendly, casual relationship with the tutors where they're kind of just recommended things. They're not turning around and saying, you must do this, you must do that. It's
True.
really flexible and friendly. That's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
I
yeah.
found it anyway, yeah.
Right.
And I think when you get the opportunity to, when we were looking at the same thing or similar things during dissertation, and you get the opportunity to go and sit and just have a coffee with someone or just have a chat on a
Yes.
quite casual and friendly basis, just to work out what's going on and try and understand your own topic. But
Yeah.
it's a very like, what do you think about this? What do I think about this? And coming to some ground where, right, this is what it means, or this is what I feel it means.
Yes, yes, true. And especially when I think that those professors, I kind of find them are very famous in a way, like in the
Yeah,
academic
intimidating.
field,
Yeah.
right? Because they seem extremely busy, but as
Hmm.
long as you send them an email saying that I have some problems and I have some questions to ask, and they will just reply you saying that, okay, meet me in my office like the day
Yeah.
after tomorrow or something like that. They always have time for their students. I
Yeah.
found this is very, very great of them. I know
Yeah.
they're
And even
extremely
if
busy. Yeah.
yeah, even if they're not at the university, then they'll do the best. I know at times I did things like this, like a Skype
Yeah.
call with tutors when they're away at a conference, or they'll kind of have it be away, but they'll recommend speaking to another tutor who
Yes.
will be able to help you. So
Yeah.
it's really nice.
Also, speaking of like the support the universities are providing for their students, what about like the financial part? I heard like it's quite normal for students there to take student loans, so because the
Yeah,
university are quite expensive.
yeah. So most, in fact, I think all of the people I went to university with that I know took out a government student loan, which is where basically you apply online and they cover your kind of yearly academic studies. So whatever that might be. So about, I know for us, I think it was around £9,000 a year, something like that, which they cover. You, that doesn't even come into your bank; that goes straight to the university.
All right.
So you don't feel as though you're getting money and it's disappearing.
Yeah.
But then you also get what's called a maintenance loan, which is for your living costs. So that's like nights out, everything that you want to pay to kind of live there, and that changes depending on who it is, because it's based on your parents or your carers' income. So that's how it kind of works with kind of people living in the UK. And I think there's also grants and scholarships available if you get like really good marks and academic studies. So there's a couple of different things available to people to study in the UK, but it's a lot of money. But then we only have to pay it back when we earn in a certain amount of money in a full-time job. So I think I can't remember at the moment quite what the threshold is, but basically you'll earn a certain amount of money, and
Yeah.
then whatever's over that, you pay back a percentage.
Right.
So it can take years and years for you to pay it back, but it doesn't kind of hang over your head.
Great. So we're both like literature students. Have you ever encountered any literature student stereotype during this time, and does that bother
Um,
you?
yeah, I think there's there's quite a few stereotypes, but I think the main one is that we're all always got our noses in books, drinking a lot of coffee, kind of not getting out much. I don't think it really bothers me, that, mainly because I know when it comes to me and most of my friends, it's true. So it doesn't really affect me. But yeah, I think there is a couple of stereotypes.
Because I feel like the stereotype here that I have encountered is that they kind of think what you are doing is kind of empty, and it's easier for literature student to pass an exam because you can just write everything, and as long as you write something, you will not really fail the exam because you have written
Yeah.
down something, and there's no universal or absolute correct answer for your paper. So they will
Yeah.
think that it's easy to pass an exam, and also they will think that we are not very down to earth, like we are
Yeah.
living in a fantasy and not really care about the world issue or some practical things, but
Yeah, I definitely think that's which people think. Yeah, I think that's probably a universal thing. Like, yeah, one thing I got quite a lot from other people who found out what I was studying was, oh, you do English, oh, like,
that kind of look.
yeah, like as though you can't do anything else. But I think when you speak to people who actually know what the topic is like and what the course is like, that fades away pretty quickly because, like you said, there are no set rules or no set answers. And I would kill for some set answers when I was studying, because what it means is that whenever you think something, whether it be really logical or quite out there, you've got to defend it, which makes you amazing at arguing, but it's quite a battle sometimes to really think why you're coming up with those answers. So I think for those who don't know about the topic and know about the course very much, it's quite easy, like you say, to dismiss it as easy. But when you actually speak to people about it and tell them what you're doing, like doing a 15,000 word dissertation, then they very quickly quiet down.
Right. So do you think like there is like a judgment among the society, or like around your friends or families, like they think doing literature is waste of time? Or do you think like doing a degree for literature is worthy your money and your time during this time?
It definitely varies. There is some people who will just think it's pointless. But when it comes to interviewing, and when it comes to actually putting yourself forward, because you've had to do these really long tasks where you really commit yourself and have to put a lot of effort in when it's quite easy not to. And then when you're doing your presentations and things like that about topics that you're really passionate about, I think it makes you a great interviewer, if nothing else. It shows that you can really sit down, concentrate on a task for long periods of time, but then also talk with passion and with interest about it. So I think even though people kind of day to day might think it's a bit of a cop out, almost a bit of a pointless task, those who actually matter, so the people interviewing you, the people who are actually going to give you jobs, they see the value in it. And as long as you're able to kind of look into what you studied and show how that really made you a better person and a better employee, then you're fine. So I got quite lucky in that my family are very much do what you want, what you're interested in, and what you think's best. It's not a degree which really lends itself to a specific role. So it's not like you'll do English literature and end up in one job.
Yes.
But it has so many transferable skills, and a lot of people recognize that.
Yes. Actually, my parents are very supportive, like
Yeah.
to this decision, but it's just like when they encounter other people, they will worry
Yeah.
that other people don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
get that.
yeah. So speaking of like a down to earth question, like what's like
Yeah.
the career expectancy for us for literature students?
So it's so broad. It literally can transfer into anything. So I'm like currently teaching. I'm working in special needs, special educational needs in a school. I have friends who are just working in coffee shops, but then I have friends who bizarrely gone into things like accounting and looking into finance. So it's one of those which I think most people go towards either publishing, teaching, journalism, things like that, because the degree really lends itself to things like that, because it's writing, it's looking at language and books. But the way that the skills are developed and how transferable a lot of them are, whether it be public speaking, like kind of literacy skills, computer skills, all things like that, that you either develop within the course or develop because of the course, then they really lend yourself to virtually anything.
So does like your degree matters when it comes to finding a job in the UK?
It really depends. There's a strange mix of needing the kind of education and the degree,
yes.
for a lot of jobs, but then also needing relevant experience. That's certainly one of the things I've struggled with now that I've finished my degree and both my degrees and things. And now looking for jobs, a lot of the time people say, oh, you're really knowledgeable, you know a lot about it, but you've not got the experience in working as this, or vice versa. So I think what's important is, whilst being at university, to really try and do other things as well, things which you can then turn around in an interview and be like, I might not have worked this job before, however, I've done these things which make me kind of, I'd be good at doing this job. I think that's quite key. Yeah.
So here comes to the final question that I would like to hear from you, is that is literature useful for our society? Why do we still have literature right now?
It's a big question.
Yeah.
I think literature, like, I'm going to go very grand here, but literature is always vital to any kind of level of society, and any society, because it kind of grounds what's happening at the time. So when you look at Shakespeare's works, when you look at the Romantics, when you look at any kind of movement or really big piece of literature, that reflects something about the time it was written, about what the people at the period were going through. So the literature which we're writing now, as much as things like Twilight or any kind of throwaway literature that people aren't necessarily reading because it's good and it's kind of uplifting, that reflects something about our society right now and what we're going through and what we're interested in. So I think it's always vital, because it kind of puts the quite dry, sometimes, history in context of what people are actually thinking and what they need to kind of get through a period, whether it be escapism, whether it be political, whether it be anything. It reflects something about the people at the period. So yeah, I think it's vital.
I think so, because I kind of find like literature is a important way for me to connect to the world. It is in this way that I can have a connection with the minor aspects of the world, of the society, and also to many other fields, like even medical or financial, like the whole world system, how the world is shifted. And also I think this is how I learned to gain my empathy for irrelevant people to me.
Yeah, that's a massive word, empathy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So, right, I agree. I think this is an amazing talk, and I really, really learned a lot from this conversation, because I think when you put things to different categories, like here I'm in a Chinese educational system, and there is the British educational system, you put things to different categories, and you will like tend to overlook the similarities between the two.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about kind of, whether it be like people in China or wherever coming to the UK to study, or people from the UK going and studying elsewhere. I think the best thing about it is that you get these kind of dialogues, and you can talk to people who have completely different experiences and completely different kind of educational systems, and have this kind of chat where you compare and contrast, and you see the similarities and the differences, and kind of what works and what doesn't. And like you were saying with empathy, it makes you understand people a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that literature does really well, because not only through the course are you engaging with different people that you might not have loads of similarities with, but you kind of find that common ground. You're also reading books from people's points of view that you've never witnessed, and that you would never get a chance to witness without it. So yeah, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, we have a lot of things like we share in common. So especially I think at the time that at this special period that we have to stay home, it's really, really amazing to have this conversation. And
yeah, it's really nice.
That's awesome. It's really, really great to have you here today, and I'll see you next time, maybe.
Yes. Yeah,
Bye.
definitely.
Yeah, many thanks for doing this. I'm just gonna wear my pajama and hang up the phone.